Now, I know this isn't going to appeal to everyone, but you know what? This is perhaps one of the most exciting MMORPG projects I have seen in a long time. The Wagadu Chronicles is a brand new upcoming MMORPG based in a unique afro-fantasy setting, something that I have never seen done before in the MMO genre. Not only did they open up their Kickstarter and get fully funded within 72 hours of going live, but they are also financially backed by Riot Games. These are the very same people behind League of Legends and Valorant. Yep, while this is being developed by an indie dev studio, it is nevertheless being financially supported by a company with quite the, I guess you could say, oversized wallet. Not that I'm saying that this is going to have like a ridiculous budget or anything like that, more so that they don't need to exclusively rely on the funding that they get from Kickstarter to fully fund and then develop the game. Unlike most MMOs, the Wagadu Chronicles is being built entirely around the role-playing aspect, from lore to mechanics. According to their Kickstarter page, Wagadu is a strange place where different types of people fall from another world and have to fight to adapt and survive. Behind the scenes, a lot has been done to create this world. We believe that role-playing thrives when the setting is fleshed out and interesting. The approach taken to create this fantasy world was, what if Tolkien were black? Just as Tolkien did, a lot of time was spent researching the mythologies and traditions of people, but in this case, the African continent. The result is 7 lineages, which are similar to fantasy races, but more nuanced, with overlapping cultures and more fluid identities. This is really, really cool. Instead of traditional fantasy races like elves or dwarves or ogres, we have a variety of different African lineages: the Asiman, the Iron Masters, the Swala, the Akaki, the the Daima, the Lion Blood, each with their own unique backstories and each based on real mythologies and traditions. And I do apologize in advance if I butchered any of those names. I know I at least messed up 2, maybe 3 of them, but then again, I do the same thing all the time with Asian names as well. I'm Australian. We have really poor pronunciation down in Australia. We really don't get to meet anyone from like any kind of cultural background other than Australian. As this is both an MMORPG and a role-playing game, they've created a brand new mechanic for use in game: the dialogue mode, which is a close-up cinematic mode when engaging with other players. Think of it kind of like how in a Sims game like The Sims 3 or The Sims 4, when engaging with an NPC, your character and the other character go off into their own little world. They start moving around, they start physically gesturing and interacting, kind of like how I talk. I'm, very physical. I make a lot of gestures when moving around and explaining things. Dialogue mode allows for much of the same thing, providing much more emotion to what's going on and allowing for you to utilize a variety of different actions and animations, giving much more freedom over your character and your story. There aren't classes specifically available in game, not in the traditional form, instead allowing base archetypes like the barbarian, the bard, the cleric, the paladin, the druid, the fighter, the monk, the hunter, and the rogue as examples. They function much like your basic class presets. However, you can also stray from and subsequently customize your class quite a bit, so much so that it'll be an entirely new hybrid. Warrior, healer, long range, rogue, yeah, both possible. There are dozens of skills that you can choose between to really customize your character and make it your own. The one thing that I'm not all too fond of is the fact that the economy is going to be player driven. While this is fine so long as the population remains healthy, as the game continues to dip or there's a drop in player base numbers during content droughts, that will end up the complete opposite. Regardless, players will be able to craft a variety of useful items in game, as most loot will only be craftable. Enemies, NPCs dropping only basics, which is really unfortunate for me. I hope that some of you guys are more than willing to go ahead and join the village we're going to create, because if you weren't already aware, Mrs. Dix and I absolutely loathe crafting in games, so you guys are gonna have to do all the crafting for us. We'll go out, we'll go hunt for resources, materials, we'll forage for food and everything, but you guys are gonna be the ones that are in charge of the crafting. I did notice though towards the end of the Kickstarter page that they made note that your items, your gear, everything can be looted from your dead body upon death, meaning that this is actually a full loot game. I know a lot of people aren't typically fans of full loot MMOs, so if that isn't your thing, I would strongly urge you to avoid this. There's also a little more to the environment than what was typically found in MMOs. An example given was with regards to obtaining wood in game, and I quote, "Obtaining wood in Wagadu, for instance, usually requires interaction with a tree spirit. You could convince it to give you some wood by making the right offering, but also by behaving in ways that the spirit likes. If in the last few days you've planted and watered seeds in the farm, the tree spirit might be more generous interest to you. If instead you're holding an axe, the outcome might even be a battle. Additionally, things you do in-game matter, and NPCs take note and remember your actions. So don't be a dick. Or actually, if you plan on being one, just make sure there are no people or trees around to see you. Finally, you are capable of obtaining your own house and therefore aiding in creating your very own village, which can compete with other villages. This adds a slight element of competitive play to the game, which is always very healthy to have. Now, I am very excited to see much more of Wagadu Chronicles. It is a very interesting idea and a look at a culture that I have never had the opportunity to explore before. I cannot wait to see more of what this game has to offer, what the developers have planned for the game and its future, and in all honesty, I really hope that this game does not end up going the route of many other indie dev-backed MMOs, because we have had way too many failed Kickstarter MMOs already. But this is my opinion, my impressions of the game. What do you guys think? Does this look like something you'd be interested in? Let me know down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Someday soon I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be worth it. Ooh,